Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Prey. I'm not the biggest Predator fan. I think everyone considers the first one a classic. I know the story. I'm not as familiar with the rest of the franchise, I'm not going to lie. I grew up with Alien vs. Predator comics, and I think Chris Claremont wrote one for Dark Horse that I liked, but I'm sort of confused what that was even called, or if it exists. I really loved Prey quite a bit. I'd heard rumblings about it might be good and stuff, but this is pure economic genre filmmaking. When I mean economic, I don't mean financially. Maybe that too. I don't really know behind the scenes how much it costs and stuff. I guess I could look it up, but I mean economic storytelling where everything matters, everything counts. It is tight and lean, and this is a genre film. It is a genre in terms of an action kind of survival Predator. It's basically the genre of Predator. If a genre director was going to make a Predator film, but unlike I think when we talk about what happened to genre and what happened to B movies and these kind of junky genre directors, eventually this kind of stuff would be directed in A level because of Spielberg and Lucas, and they were like, what if you took a genre film or you took a B movie and basically if you took a B movie and direction at an A level is I guess the phrase. This is if you had a genre director, a lean, tight genre director, have the resources of an A director, but he is still a genre director. Like Spielberg had, wanted to be David Lean, and Lucas was influenced by Kurosawa and all that. I'm not saying Dan Trachtenberg, the director of this film, doesn't have those aspirations or isn't that good or something. I'm saying that he could go toe-to-toe with some of the finest craftsmen in the business based on this film, and I mean that in the highest regard. I think those outward ambitions have made a lot of directors who have good ideas kind of fall under their own pretentiousness. Dan Trachtenberg has no real pretension almost in his direction. It is entirely kind of so lean and to the point that there's no mistaking what you're supposed to be focusing on. It's incredibly dynamic in that way. It reminds me of a big favorite of mine, Primal, in terms of just you were on an adventure with this protagonist, you were going to be in this adventure, you were with them, and that's sort of all there is. You don't really need to know what happened before. They'll tell you. We don't need to get into it. We are completely in the present, in the moment of this adventure, of this journey. And being in that journey and bringing in this film is so captivating and incredible. As much as everyone's saying, I wish I could watch this on the big screen, I do too. That would be wonderful. But I was so captivated by it. I could have watched it on anything and it would have struck me with how much power that the storytelling of this film really had. Prey is about a young Comanche girl in 1719, so a really long time ago, when this film takes place, and Naru, who's played by Amber Midthunder, is basically she wants to be a hunter, even though she's good at medicine and other things. And I think she sees basically the Thunderbird, and that's a sign that she's going to prove herself and basically have her first kind of hunting kill. But what she thinks she sees as a Thunderbird is the Predator spaceship as they're dropping off a Predator who's going to hunt on Earth and shit. And her brother, who's played by Dakota Beavers, is not as sure about this, but they do see weird tracks and weird things going on, and they suddenly realize that their land and everything is being hunted by a predator, like the alien predator. Not, I mean, I guess he is a predator, but you know what I mean. And they have to find a way to stop him or kill him before he does even worse, as he can, slaughter them and do all these awful things. She has to use her ingenuity to defeat his alien technology or more advanced technology, and be able to basically take him out, much like you saw in the original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. When I'm watching it, what I like about her character and what Amber Midthunder, I mean, this is one of the best star-making roles I've seen in a long time. I will follow her in another movie, especially in an action movie. I would say she made a star-making action movie performance. I think she could star in a ton of other action movies. This is shot by Jeff Coulter, who does an amazing job. He really, I think it is very like kind of now like post-Revenant, post whatever other period movie that's going on right now. It's very of its time, but it's actually really good at it. It doesn't like, I think a lot of times when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the era we're in, so that's what we have to do, which is like what he's doing. Maybe not as like doing the crazy one-shot things or doing what Emmanuel Lubezki did in that film, but I would say color correction wise, and it just, you get that vibe, I guess. It's very kind of, again, like very focused on what it's doing. One of the things I think that brings this all together and brings a lot of this together is the direction of Dan Trachtenberg, who I've only seen this and 10 Cloverfield Lane, both of which I really liked. And he kind of seems to do similarly with these two films, reminds me of what people used to say about Phil Lord and Chris Miller when they did the Lego movie and 21 Jump Street, where everybody said you can't make a good movie out of those two, and they did. And it's like he made two franchise films, two sequels that no one thought had no interest in, and they both were films I like very much love and are very memorable and had such compelling, thrilling times with. And I think it's almost because in both these, when you're kind of developing a story, you think of like what the idea is, what the central idea, what you're trying to present. And he almost breaks down these franchises to what is the essential driving force behind them. And in Prey, it's basically like, what do you want from a Predator film? And Prey is basically, a newer version of the first Predator, but that's such a great, tense, smartly woven story. If you do one of those, you're going to get a cool Predator movie with Prey. And I think same with 10 Cloverfield Lane, where he broke it down and goes, well, if there is a monster movie, wouldn't it be interesting to have these survivalists? And you should see that movie. I don't need to break down the plot of 10 Cloverfield Lane, but that shows what's so smart about him as a storyteller is he understands the subject matter that he's taking on. He understands the legacy of it. He understands what it's saying. He understands the ideas within it. It's funny we have so many reboots and remakes, movies trying to recapture memories basically and trying to sequelize things. And I think in both this and 10 Cloverfield Lane, he's more looking at like what needs to be done, what can be done with it. And I think it's interesting that so many people I talked to said this feels like a Predator movie, and although it makes certain references and so forth, it's not hitting you over the head with it. You don't, like, this could be your first Predator movie. You don't need to see a Predator movie to see Prey, which is actually what I really liked about it, because so much of our culture now is, Star Wars, the Marvel movie, Halloween, all those things. And yes, I have seen all those, and yes, I do get all those references, but it's seeing something that's so divorced from that. It's like such a different angle, while also being so much of what you want from those things. Like, I really want Dan Trachtenberg, to be doing some really major stuff. To be honest, I think he might be the best craftsman auteur that we have right now, and he could do a Marvel movie almost and be able to like show his auteurness through it. I have a lot of faith in him after both these. Just don't make a Cloverfield paradox after this one, please, dear God. In a weird way, I've heard this feels like a movie you wouldn't have a lot to say about, because there's not much controversial about it. It plays like a very simple kind of economical genre thing. And that's what I liked about Walter Hill. That's what I like about John Carpenter, is like they understood how to structurally make a really tight movie, and almost like in a kind of like working class way of filmmaking almost. It's like so stripped of pretension, but it's stripped down to just tell the story, just straight up tell the story, and you understand exactly what they're trying to say at all times. And I think a lot of people don't respect that as much, because cinema and art is, when consumed, has to be like this highbrow thing. And I'm not saying I'm against those things, where it's felt that like the more intelligent stuff is denser and there's all these ideas and stuff. I don't, that's something I think art has never really done, or art criticism or how people receive art has never done well, is like, how do you deal with a craftsman versus an auteur? What I'm saying with Dan Trachtenberg's work, he is doing craftsman level genre work at a point where it's like he's doing it in an auteur way. You can't deny that kind of thing, or the reputation of auteur. I made a video all about that stuff, but that idea is like, I can see that this is the same guy from 10 Cloverfield Lane, but I can also see he like understood, he understood the assignment or whatever of making a Predator film. And also that this is like, a film from a completely different perspective than I'm used to. I never see films in 1719 about the Comanches. There's actually a Comanche dub. I'm saying that I don't know the language, I'm sorry, which I'm kind of curious. I might watch that. And apparently a lot of the actors, or all of them, did it. I don't know. I forget. I've just heard it through podcasts and so forth. But this is a really cool movie. Also, the Predator really hates French people. Didn't know that. But he doesn't seem like a guy who'd like berets, so I guess that makes sense. This is kind of the most pure cinema I've seen this year, and definitely one of the best movies of the year. This is a lean, tight, well-made kind of movie. It is so sturdy, you could never knock it down. It's like that kind of craftsmanship where you're like, we're still passing this table down from generation to generation, but it's still sturdy, steady, not moving. You can't knock it down. And that's what Prey is, and that's what's so amazing about it. I love just really tight, really well-made, just wonderful kind of stories. And Prey is the classical kind of classic Hollywood studio director is like, I know how to tell this, and this is a great, which he also wrote with Patrick Gleason wrote it, and him and Dan Trachtenberg came up with the story, I guess. But it's hard to get this out of your head in a little ways, because I was just like, did that really happen? Like, almost everyone I talked to is like, there's like a really good Predator movie. Like, holy shit. Like, it's just like, they got it. Like, goddamn. Like, wow. Just like, there's no way you can leave this movie and not be amazed by what it did. And I don't know. I'm just so happy with seeing just like a great movie like this. It sort of reminds me of another film I definitely have on my best films of the year list, Kimmy, where that is very tight, knows what it's doing, comes in, gets out, and leaves. And I think this is under 90 minutes or something. Whatever the length was, it wasn't that long. Oh, love it. I love it. It shows you the power of cinema. It shows you the power of storytelling. It shows you why the idea of the Predator was so smart in a post-Vietnam world where, like, much like the idea of Aliens, where America, the great superpower, was defeated, the Vietnamese knew that land better. That was the idea of Aliens. I always thought that idea was in Predator. Maybe I'm like way off on that. But I thought that was like kind of one of those ideas in 80s action stuff where, like, if you had the ingenuity and you had the smarts and you understood your land and your territory, you could be able to defeat the bad guys with your intelligence, which I think is in Prey as well. It's kind of a universal idea. Like, do you need this technology, or do you need the intelligence to be able to, or the ingenuity, or the street smarts, which I think Naru has, and Amber Midthunder has within her performance and in her so much. Like, I feel like she could do this, to be honest. Like, she gives me that belief through her performance. They're able to really think it out, not because of society norms, but really look at what they need to do this. Like, use basically, strategy to defeat someone, not just rely on technology. And it's interesting that, I think that's in the original Predator and in Aliens, but I think when you look at this, which doesn't have the technology of those two, what she's going after is like, she has to think on her own. She has to go off of what she's been taught, and understand how to defeat this guy. And that's just like such a compelling thing to watch. Like, someone like on their first thing, it does remind me of Primal, because you're like, how are they going to get out of this? Just like such bare bones survivalist kind of humanity adventure that is tense and compelling in a way that you just can't strip yourself away from. You're just in it with her, and you're hoping she can find a way out, and you think she's smart enough, but I guess you'll have to wait and find out if she did. But that journey, that idea of going against this is such a great part of this narrative and this story. You kind of can't help but keep watching Prey. So if you have seen Prey and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.